amazing is that I am bang on time and I've got loads of questions. So I'm excited, sort of. If anybody on here has got any ideas how I can motivate myself to stop eating, that would be good, which I know is quite difficult, but anyway, enough about me. So I've got tons and tons of questions, so I'm just going to start. First one is, I had a section with my first baby, will I have to have another C-section? So quite a wide open question there. And the honest answer is it's really difficult for me to answer that because I don't know why you had a section in the first place, but having a section for number one doesn't necessarily mean to say that you're going to have one for number two. So there is every reason to hope. A lot of the time when people have cesarean sections first time round, it's because their baby was in an odd position or something like that that just was not helping with things go through. So it may just be that your first baby was an awkward little one and the second one gets themselves in a far better position and you're absolutely good to go. But it's a case of speaking with your consultant midwife just to find out what they think and see how you get on. Right, Ruby Chili has asked, I had a section 4 weeks ago, I'm still bleeding, is this normal? Can be. It just depends on how heavy the bleeding is. I think it's not abnormal if it's sort of just a bit sort of persistently brown, dark. If it's still bright red fresh blood and you're having to change your pads frequently, then it might be worth getting that checked out. But as long as it's not excessive, I would probably give it another week and then get checked. But if you are worried, again, obviously get checked. And if you're losing any clots or anything at 4 weeks, I would definitely say to get checked. Congratulations, by the way. Right, more questions. Can you explain the need for a catheter in a C-section, and can this cause risk of damage to the bladder? So in actual answer, it's a really good question. The rationale is actually to protect your bladder. Because you are sort of effectively less mobile, not necessarily able to have all those sensations that you would have normally, it's good that something is continually draining your bladder to make sure that it's not expanding. And often when you have epidurals or things like that, you're given fluids. Not always. Where I worked, it was always standard that as soon as you have an epidural, you are put fluids up. But where I work now, they try and avoid that unless fluids are absolutely necessary. However, we do want you to stay hydrated in labour, and if you're not draining your bladder, you've then got a baby that's bouncing up and down on the bladder. And there's no reason to think that having a catheter in should cause any damage, so try not to worry. And what we do is we get the epidural working, so you can't really feel anything, and then put it in, so it shouldn't be painful either. When would you suggest waking a sleeping baby in the night to formula feed? Oh, Natalie, that's a good question. What I would say is, for sleep questions, get yourself onto our sleep workshop where Carla is much better at sleep with me. But in terms of nutrition, I always think I always class a newborn as a baby is up to 4 weeks, basically, so a month. And in that time, a healthy weight baby with no concerns as weeing, pooing, putting weight on. If you get 2 hours between feeds, it's acceptable. If you get 3, that's really good. Don't let them go any longer than 4. That's my general sort of rule of thumb. It's easy to remember, 2, 3, 4, but certainly no more than 4 in that first month of life. Now, there are people who would disagree and say, oh no, get them in a routine, but I believe up to the age of a month, we really shouldn't be trying to get them into routines. And even then, I think 4 months is soon enough for trying to get them to sleep through the night. Right, question on here. I'm 19 plus 3 weeks pregnant. I had a flu vaccination 2 days ago, but I now have a fever from yesterday. My whole body is hurting. What am I supposed to do? Can I take paracetamol? If yes, what's the dose and how many times a day? So you can take paracetamol as long as you're not allergic. You need to follow the dosage that's on the side of the packet. Generally, they're in 500 milligrams, so you can take 2. Don't ever just take 1 paracetamol. It's not worth it. You need to take 2 to reach the therapeutic dose. But I can't advise you on the amount to take. You need to read what it says on the packet. But generally, it's 2, depending on the strength of them. But general paracetamol is 2, and you can take them every 4 to 6 hours. You can't take any more than 8 paracetamols in a 24-hour period. I'm due to give birth in 7 to 8 weeks. With the COVID situation, should I take my own snacks and drinks? Becky, that's a good question, but I don't think there's any odds with the COVID situation. We would always tell you to take your own snacks and drinks. That's not to say that we're not feeding you. We will still be feeding you, but always take some Not nice. Like prison food. Not really, but you know. Anyway, I'm having a lot of pain in my legs during the night. What do you recommend to help with this? Tara, it's really common to get sort of legs cramps, restless legs, jittery legs. And the thing is, you've got to think your body is circulating up to 30% more volume than it does normally. So understandably, it's probably a little bit tired. I would definitely try doing some yoga moves before you get into bed. Just keep moving your feet around just to circulate. I don't think there's a whole lot that you can do. Relaxation and yoga is probably about the best that you could do. Keep moving while you're up in the evening. Sit with your feet elevated. Keep moving your feet. That sort of thing. Another one of those. It's all part and parcel. Hi, Shelby. I'm having a lot of pain in. Oh, I've read that one. I'm 39 plus 5 with my second and had an induced labour last time. What early signs should I be looking for? So there's about 6 signs of labour generally. Your mucus plug shouldn't really mean anything. So that's supposed to be a sign of labour, but your mucus plug can come away. You might have some backache. You might have some diarrhea. You might start nesting, cleaning the house, that sort of thing. Contractions, and your waters might break. So if your waters break, you need to phone the hospital straight away. If you start having some contractions, just try and think about a list of things that are going to keep you occupied. So like, right, I'll watch one episode of Friends, or I'll do that ironing, or I'll make a cake. You know, I'll take the 1950s pinny off and do something else. I don't know. But just keep yourself occupied. Depending on how quick your first labour was, just give the hospital a ring, just let them know once you sort of feel that you're having good, strong, regular contractions. And then come back next week and show us your baby. I am having an elective section next month. Do I need to self-isolate before the operation, and if so, for how long? My mum lives in another country and planning to come a few days before the section, so wondering if it would be okay. What's the protocol with COVID? Okay, so it's a bit complicated, isn't it? Because I don't know what area of the country that you live in. And so that's going to vary. I haven't heard that we're telling people to self-isolate before operation. So again, I think you need to go back to your local trust and check. My gut says that we're not doing that, but again, it's so difficult in these high-risk areas to know what's coming. With regards to your mum living in another country and planning to come over, I'm not sure whether the restrictions that are coming in are going to allow that. I think if she is coming over, and it's from a higher risk area, the idea is that she is going to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And I know my brother-in-law is thinking of going away and coming back, and his plan is to stop in a hotel for 2 weeks because he's got 2 kids, blah, blah, blah. So it's just really difficult, and I think the best place is to ask your local hospital. But I think the sticking point you're going to have is with your mum coming over. Is it normal to get tingling from fingertip to collarbone, from toes to thigh? I'm 19 weeks. So the tingling could be a carpal tunnel thing, fingertip to collarbone. It's quite a long way. I would probably it is probably normal. It's probably nerve compression, but maybe just get checked out if it's excessive. But I think it's probably just the nerves. Is it normal to get Braxton Hicks a lot at 33 weeks? Baby has dropped a lot in the last few days. It's my second baby. Holly, yeah, I'd say it is quite normal, as long as that they are not sort of becoming regular and stronger and they're on that trajectory of labour, that constant rock solid tummy, then relaxing. It can just happen all the time, really. But just keep an eye on it, and if at any point you are worried, just go and phone the unit. Somebody phoned me or messaged me the other day, and they were worried that they'd got an infection and wasn't quite sure what to do. And it's like, whenever you are worried, just go to the unit, just ring them and ask them what they think you should do. They're the best people to find out. At my 34-week appointment, my midwife said the baby's head was engaged. I'm worried baby could come early. Is it normal to be engaged? Yes, that's absolutely normal, Lisa. 34 weeks, that's fine for them to start moving head down into the right position. If you think, Lisa, if you'd have gone and she'd have said, oh, your baby's breech, you'd have thought, oh, is that normal at 34 weeks? So yeah, we want them to start pointing in the right direction for 34 weeks. And if you think, Lisa, from 37 weeks, you're actually classed as term. So your baby could come anytime in the next 3 weeks. So it's the right thing that they're head down. So yeah, don't worry. Hi Louise, I'm 23 plus 4 and I'm suffering with my back. I'm getting crunching in my back at night and it's clicking and sore. What can I do to help? The one thing I would say that's really going to probably help Nia is yoga. join Carly on a Monday evening for her pregnancy yoga, and what she'll be able to do is give you some moves to be able to really stretch yourself out before you go into bed. And it's a really good time to do your yoga because it relaxes you, starts to release all those nice hormones, but really starts to stretch things out. So all the restless leg stuff and the sore backs, the tingling. If you can do some really good pregnancy stretches, it's certainly not going to do any harm. So that's what I would do. And Carly's amazing. She does, anybody who wants a taster session, she does one on a Sunday evening on Your Baby Club. So watch out for her. It's really hard with yoga, isn't it? Because I always do think, yoga. But everybody I speak to, they always look really healthy and really happy. So I think there's got to be something in it because I look really unhealthy and I'm quite miserable. So maybe I should go on the Sunday taster with Carly. Just wondering what to do for morning sickness. I've tried ginger and biscuits, tried fresh air, which helps briefly, tried toast, tried no food, just drink, tried eating. Right, try getting a traditional fan, like a Spanish fan, and getting some peppermint oil and wafting that in front of your nose. That might help. Peppermint is quite good for clearing your sort of nose and stuff. I'm going to sneeze. Arrowroot biscuits are also thought to help. It's I think it's a herb. I'm not a very good gardener, but it's a herb or a spice or something that's in a biscuit. You can do quite an old-fashioned biscuit, a bit like rich tea biscuits, but they've got arrowroot in, and that's supposed to help. You could try the travel bands, might help. Question 1. Oh, Hayley's coming in with question 1. That means she must be coming in with question 2. I'm 22 weeks pregnant and have low PAPA at my 20-week scan. The consultant said that there is some resistance, but she's measuring average size. I have to have scans every 4 weeks from 28 weeks to check her growth. Should I be worried or is it futile? And is there anything I can do to improve placenta, more vitamins, circulation to improve? 2, when should you be monitoring kicks? Should you know that they're routine? Right, okay. 2 separate questions. I think, Hayley, you've hit the nail on the head. Worrying about anything in pregnancy is futile unless there is something that you can do about it, and then it's like, don't worry, do this. And with low PAPA, which is basically a hormone that floats around in pregnancy, it's not in your control. So yes, look after yourself. Yes, do some stretches to help your circulation, but that's not necessarily going to have a huge impact. So yes, so just look after yourself. Try your best not to worry about it too much because that's not good for baby. You're in the system now. You're being checked and that sort of thing. Moving on to the movements. Movements are really key, and I think we throw it out there about monitor their movements and that sort of thing. But movement is a really key sign of wellness with babies. And that's not to say what babies should do is have periods of quiet and periods of movement, the same as what we do. If you think about what our activities are during the day, we will have periods where we're sat down, periods where we're moving. And also, if you think about how we act when we're on top form, if you're all singing, all dancing, you might go for a walk around the park, you might do, various things, pop to the shop, make a cake, do all sorts of stuff. If you're feeling a bit naff, you will sit on that sofa with a blanket on and maybe eat some cake. So your activity is going to be much slower. So it's just about with the movements. I would say from 22 weeks, we should be feeling baby move. By the time you get to sort of 26 weeks, you should start to know what's normal for your baby. And again, it's a really hard one because people are like, I just don't understand this, what's normal for my baby. And I think it always comes down to any time you suddenly think, just doesn't feel it just doesn't feel right today, then get checked out. We'd rather you got checked out 22 times more than was needed than once less than you should have done. So it's just, you're never ever a pain in the neck when it comes to movements. Just get checked out. I had a baby 2 weeks ago. I suffered split stomach muscles while pregnant. I've been told it can take up to 3 months to heal. What exercise can I do that won't hurt my stomach? Right, Laura, the best thing I can advise you to do is get in touch with Mummy MOT. 2 weeks ago is a bit too. 2 weeks is a bit too early to be doing anything significant. But what Mummy MOT can do is there'll be a women's specialist in your area who can give you a proper full women's physiotherapy assessment, and they will judge all of these things and give you a proper plan. It's not. I'm not equipped to give you exercise advice because it's just not my area. But it is something that you are right to think you need to do something about because you want to be fit and healthy moving forward. When will you start feeling baby kicking? You should start feel baby kicking from any time from 18 weeks, and some people don't feel it until 22, 23 weeks. I would always say if you haven't felt anything by the end of 23 weeks, you should go and get checked. I have developed gestational diabetes at nearly 36 weeks, and I would like to know if there are any tips on what I can and can't eat. I'm very low on the scale, thank you. Just reduce your sugar intake, carbohydrate intake, basically. So bread, rice, pasta, reduce them down because they convert into sugar, and sugar, cake, chocolates, crisps. Cry boy. That's what I need to do. I think I need to be diagnosed with gestational diabetes. I had my first baby 18 years ago and still hasn't gone. Right, replying to Laura. What did Laura say? Right, okay, so going to Sophie, that if that stomach muscle hasn't changed, I would go and get that sorted out. And I think I was really cross the other day. There was an advert on the TV for women's incontinence pads, and there's all these women of varying different ages sneezing and off, and it was, this advert really made it sound like it was normal. It's not normal. That shouldn't be happening to us, and it's because in other European countries they get physiotherapy assessments as standard, and we don't in this country, and we've left this generations of women that just think wetting yourself when you're sneezing and not being able to jump on a trampoline when you're 40 is normal, and it's really not normal, and there are things that you can do about it. So I might start a riot about it, because Sophie, lovely, I bet there would be some things that you could do to improve the situation. Danielle, what was Danielle worried about? Where's she gone? Don't worry, my lovely. So hard, isn't it? I'm 27 weeks pregnant and it's my second pregnancy. I've just found out I've got gestational diabetes and I'm a bit overwhelmed. Does it completely go once you've had baby? Will there be complications after birth or during? Any advice is much appreciated. Okay, so it's a big thing. It feels like a really big thing to suddenly be told this, but the first thing is, yes, it will go. As soon as you're not pregnant anymore, you're not classed as having gestational diabetes. It may take a little while for your sugars to come, but we don't even look at your sugars after baby's gone. It does put you at a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes later on in life, but again, that comes, type 2 diabetes is really controllable with good lifestyle. So it's just to be aware of that it does increase your risk a little bit. Will there be complications after birth or during birth? So certainly not after birth, there shouldn't be. I mean, we'll keep an eye on baby's blood sugar levels just to see whether they're regulating their blood sugar, and it could be that they need to have a bit more extra monitoring, or they might need to have, it might be advised that they have a formula top up. So, but that will all be discussed with you. In terms of during labour, one of the bigger things that we might think about is whether the baby's has grown excessively, which can sometimes happen with gestational diabetes. But again, you will be scanned more regularly to just see what the growth is looking like, to see whether there's any management that needs to be put in place. So I try not to worry too much about it. It's something that we manage really well. I'm 37 plus 2 and lost my plug a week ago. Since then, been getting cramps on and off through the day with the odd one travels in my back. Does this mean labour could be starting? Louisa, it sounds like something's sort of starting to go on. And often, if this is your first baby, this is the way it can go. It's like it starts on Monday, next Monday, like I thought the baby would have been here by now. So it sort of starts. But then suddenly, you'll just suddenly gain some momentum. So yeah, it sounds like it. Come back next week and show us your baby. I'm 8 weeks and 3 days, but I look like I'm about 15 weeks. Why is this? This is my third child. So, Julie, often we do show sooner with our subsequent children, and I don't honestly know the reason why for that. It's just the way you're carrying this particular pregnancy. Might have something to do with the gap that you've got between them, but again, I would be picking out in the dark. I honestly don't know the reason, but it's not necessarily anything that we necessarily worry about. I'm 21 weeks and not feeling kicking and no bump. Is this normal? Talisa, everybody is different. I think at 21 weeks and you've got no bump and you'll feel obviously nervous about it, do you know what I would probably do? I'd give your midwife a quick ring and say, I'm really nervous. I've not had any reassurance about this baby since my scan or whenever you were last seen. Was there any chance, just say, I'm getting myself in a right order. Is there any chance that I could come in and just have somebody listening, just so that you've got that bit of reassurance? If I was your midwife, that's what if you rang me, I would be like, right, just pop by, swing by, and I'll have a listen in. Having said that, it can be that some people don't feel anything till about 22 weeks. So fingers crossed you'll start to feel something soon. Again, can you come back and tell us how you're getting on next week? Lisa, thanks for answering my last question. Would I know the difference between amniotic fluid and just general discharge and fluids? Is there a point where I should get checked out? Do you know what, Lisa? That's such a good question, because actually quite often we will get women come in and they'll say, I think my waters have broken, and we'll do what's called a speculum to check, and there's nothing there. It's not waters, it is just discharge. So sometimes it is really difficult, but again, it's really important that you get checked out if you are in any doubt, because we don't want you walking around for days and days and days thinking it's just discharge if actually it's your waters. So if you're unsure, get it checked out. Louisa, you're first. Hoping you'll be here soon. Again, come back and tell us. I have vaginal discharge and I'm feeling it's more than what should be. Sometimes it feels very itchy and uncomfortable. Raman, you might need a swab just to check that you've not got thrush or anything like that. But sometimes discharge can be really excessive. It's not something to worry about. But if you're not feeling right on top of that, then you should get that checked. If I'm unable to breastfeed after the birth, should I pack some pre-made bottles in my hospital bag? Lisa, another good question. She's pulling them out of the bag today, though, Lisa. We do hold a stock of formula in the hospital. So if you are really sort of thinking you're really going to give breastfeeding a good go, I wouldn't take formula in, because one, we're never that far away from a supermarket where we can send someone out to get it. And secondly, we do hold a stock of it in the hospital. So say it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't have any, and your plans were to breastfeed and something's changed, we would have some to see you through. Gosh, that was a flurry of questions. Right, I've got a couple more here. Oh, thought I had a couple more here. How long should it take your cervix to return to its normal position after forceps delivery? Louise, that's a really good question. But the answer is it never returns back to normal, ever. So when we do vaginal examinations, if I had 10 women lined up and I didn't know whether they'd had a baby or they didn't have a baby, I would know by feeling their cervix. I would be able to know whether it was what we call a multiple cervix, so you've had multiple pregnancies, or someone who's never had a baby before. So it never goes back the same way as it was. Effectively, what happens, it's more the uterus that contracts down and sort of pulls that cervix back into some sort of tube-like shape. And that should happen over the sort of the major push of it pretty much immediately. And then over the next couple of days, it'll tighten down and tighten down. 3 days overdue, any advice? Chill, go for a nice walk. That's it, just wait. Baby will come when it's ready, or if it doesn't, you'll need to be induced. There's not much you can do. Any advice for people who may have to go through early labour alone? So, yeah, just plan for it. Think about all the bits of entertainment that you could take in, how you can use technology to help you. So can you have a rota of people that you can FaceTime to have a chat with? You can remotely play games with people, can't you? Apparently, I don't know. My kids always say that. What you do? Playing Scrabble. Who you with? But, there are these things that you can do. So pack some entertainment, have a rota of friends, look at what games you can play with each of them remotely. Can you play Monopoly with your partner if he's at home? Just thinking about occupying yourself. That's the biggest tip. You might want to do some hypnobirthing videos and stuff just to try and keep yourself nice and calm. And, if you're feeling yourself getting a bit stressed, put something like that on. But hopefully it won't be for too long. And I know some hospitals are starting to let more people in. Right, one more. How to prepare for planned section and best recovery tips. So, planned section is lovely. Just pack your bag, be ready to go. It's really calm. Take a nice magazine because you don't know what time they'll ask you to come in first thing in the morning, but you may not actually go down to theatre till 4 in the afternoon. So take something to occupy yourself. Have your camera packed and just be excited. Don't be worried about it. You are in really, really safe hands, and it's really nice. An elective cesarean is really nice. I had one with Isabel, and it is lovely. Oh, any ideas of the link for registering birth of baby online? Oh, Natasha, I honestly don't know the question. I don't know the answer to that. Should I have a little look? Should I just, let's see if I can answer that question with good old Google. I would imagine it would be on your local government website. So register a birth. Here you go. God, I'm good. Right, I'm going to put that